Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Marco. I am a marketer, fitness coach, singer, and astrology student on a journey to discover what it means to be human. I am on a quest to build a community for people who want to believe in themselves, unleash their inner power, and reclaim their voices through self discovery. So, if you enjoy discussing topics such as fitness, relationships, astrology, and human stories, please feel free to subscribe, share, or reach out. Together, through the power of stories and conversation, we can grow stronger as a community. In today's episode, you will learn about the power of simplicity for well being, the contribution of a solid base from which you can build upon anything you want in life. We will dabble in the fundamental elements of health and well being and draw the correlation between them and the basics of astrology. It's all full circle. I know it sounds a little weird. I'm really into astrology, but please, just bear with me. Now, I also want to say that all the information I'm going to talk about here comes from an anecdotal place. It comes from my personal experience. Yes, some from some research I've done and from my professional experience, but this is just for fun and entertainment. Don't take this as advice. Everyone is responsible for their own lives. And yeah, this is just a space to talk and to have fun. Now, for me, well being is correlated with health. We live and experience life through our body and through our senses. Now, health being a state of well being and optimal functioning in terms of physical, mental, and emotional aspects. Now, all these aspects don't have to be perfect in order to achieve happiness or well-being, but instead we can work towards a feeling of acceptance, appreciation, and progress in any of these aspects. You might ask, how? Well, this is where the power of fundamentals comes in, at least for me. Let's first delve into the significance of fundamentals. Fundamentals represent the essential elements on which something is built or supported. The word essential evokes simplicity, the most basic and primary form of anything. Curiously, the rush for quick fixes and magic formulas has distanced us from the value of simplicity. And I know this kind of like for a fact because I used to create content for a health and fitness. And I used to work with it for a long time. And I would notice how some pieces of content would make more impact if they would talk about maybe like complex things or tricks or formulas or quick fixes, and that would those pieces would or posts would become very popular and shared a lot. But when I would say something about, hey, just drink more water, which is something that's very simple, it would be like kind of boring for the audience, right? So I notice how sometimes we want things that are more complex or difficult when the for me, that's what I think is like the things that we do every day that are very simple have a lot of impact. And sometimes like we don't appreciate them or take them for granted. Um, and I would like to provide another example. I am a singer, right? So when you sing a song, and this song was usually written by someone. So someone wrote this song probably based on an experience. That could be a made up experience that can relate for uh, with many people, or it can actually come from real experience of someone else's experience. Now, when you sing the song, you are actually telling that story, and when you tell the story, if you um and this is actually very interesting because sometimes like you listen to a song and you're like, oh, this song is very cool, and then you listen to the person who wrote it and you understand why they wrote it. This song, sorry, will have a lot more meaning to you, and you will be like, oh wow, this makes a lot more sense and it's more impactful. Now, I love to sing, and I especially love riffs and runs and ad libs. So if you're familiar with singing, it would be like, when someone belts a song and they like sustain like huge note, and they do a bunch of notes, like kind of like Christina Aguilera, Jasmine Sullivan, both incredible singers, um which I love a lot and have a lot of influence in me. those songs, and by the way, I'm not saying like they only do riffs. I'm just saying this is kind of like an example of someone who like belt and does riffs, or runs or ad libs in their songs, and they're very rich vocally. Now, those things are incredible, especially for singers and for people who love listening to the singing aspect of of a song, right? Or this vocal arrangement. But sometimes we forget, or at least I forget, that the real power is telling the story and communicating the story and actually, or hopefully, making an impact or sharing a moment with the person who's listening, and actually taking them to a different place through the song, through the words, through the intentionality of the words, through increasing your volume, through being raw. And when I was saying increasing volume or decreasing volume in certain parts of the song, if you're to make it more meaningful. And I'm not saying the riffs or the other things or the belting or the sustained long notes are not important or are not good. It's like those are the, icing on the cake. But the fundamental aspect of a song is telling the story and being intentional and meaningful with it. And I am guilty of trying to like, do a bunch of riffs and stuff like that because I love it. But if you want to make an impact in or share the moment or connect with the person, yeah, I think it's important to tell the story. And that's where you try to rely or really take advantage of, of the pitch, of the volume, or the things that are fundamental in order, to accomplish what you want to do with the song. Another thing or another example could be when you want to better your health. When we want to better our health, it's important to focus on the things that are simple that we do every day and the fundamentals. Now, when I did my certification with Precision Nutrition, which is an organization who, works with companies and people like hundreds of thousands of people, and they've helped them, improve their health in many aspects. So when I did my certification with these people, they kind of divide people into, or a person's fitness journey into 3 levels. In each level, they progress the core practices from fundamentals to the things that are more tip of the iceberg strategies. I also came across the term deep health. According to them, acquiring deep health involves thriving in all domains of the human experience. It's a whole person, whole life approach to health, including the following dimensions: the physical dimension, mental, emotional, existential, relational or social, and environmental. It would be 6 dimensions. I'm going to give you an example of each of them. So the physical would be how our body feels, functions, and performs. Our mental and cognitive health talks about how well we think, learn, and remember. Our perspective on the world, our capacity for insight and conscious awareness, our creativity and problem solving. Our emotional health talks about feeling a full range of emotions, but also having more positive emotions than negative, recognizing and appropriately, expressing emotions, regulating and being able to respond to emotional challenges in a resilient and productive way. Then we have our existential dimension that talks about having a deeper why, having a strong sense of ourselves, and intrinsic self-worth, very important, feeling a part of a bigger picture or a larger purpose. Now, relational and social would be connecting and interacting well with others, developing and maintaining authentic and fulfilling relationships, feeling respected, seen, valued, and supported by others, having a sense of belonging. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm doing this, because I think it's important to share. Maybe for people like you don't even know in person, but you can make impact and people can feel like, I'm here for you, even if it's just like with sharing or with words. So yeah, that's what I'm doing this basically. or one of the reasons I'm doing this. And then we have our environmental dimension, which is about being and feeling safe and secure, being and feeling supported by our surroundings, having access to resources like healthcare and healthy food, and being able to act in the world. Now, so again, these are six aspects. So according to them, it's like if you, or I believe this as well. So it's like if you make some progress in one of these areas, that will impact the other areas of your life, because all these aspects or all these dimensions work together. They are like correlated. So if you make a little like a little progress, if you think on a continuum, right, just making a little progress in any of these aspects of your life, probably that will have an impact in the other aspects of your life. So if you are able to acknowledge and to appreciate those little efforts that are actually very simple, but are actually very hard to change, is something hard. And I know I don't want to like make this a belief, like saying, oh, change is hard, but yeah, it can be difficult, right? And you don't really have to believe it, because something like the power of your beliefs is very important. It's something that you need to take into consideration. But usually, yeah, change is not the easiest thing. So if you're able to appreciate and acknowledge the progress you have, I think that will get you closer to being healthy, And again, it's about your mindset. If you adopt that mindset of progress and a continuum, then it will impact your physical health most probably, and then your emotional health, because you will feel better about yourself. You maybe regulate your emotions a little better. You will get less frustrated, and then you will be able to connect better with other people, and that makes your relationships better. And then you feel happier, I guess, and at least you get this sense of well-being and that sense of like, hey, I'm here for me, so I think that's very important and great. But now this is where it's going to get a little esoteric, because I'm going to talk a little bit about, yes, astrology. Yes. And I know for some people, this is kind of like witchery or something weird or very nonsensical. It's like, why would you believe in astrology? And it's not about believing in astrology or not. Again, for me, at least for me, I see it as a language. Maybe it came from the story is different. And there's so much information and story or historical data about astrology that we could be here for hours talking about that. But I see astrology as a language. I don't know, I'm naturally drawn to it. I don't know why. And I probably, if there's research, or there might be a reason why, but I think it's just a language that I'm open to, and that I can at least speak a little bit. And it's super fun. And I think it's just a way to get to know yourself better. And not just that, it's just like a calendar. And you can follow that calendar or not. And it's not about being predictive, and it's not being like, oh, this person is a Libra, so yada yada yada. Oh no, it's not about it. It's just about self-discovery. And then you can be fun about it if you want to talk about it, about people, or saying, or actually giving the responsibility to your sign instead of yourself. That's something I I don't do. But you can make it or do it in a funny way, but something that's not actually serious. Being that said, I hope you stay and just listen to this thing that I find cool when I draw the correlation between what I've learned in astrology and what I've learned from the health industry or fitness industry, and how it all comes together. It's a full circle for sure. Now, in astrology, there are 12 signs, right? Like Aries, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. I'm not gonna tell the 12 signs, but yeah, we have 12 signs in astrology, at least in Western astrology. Now, instead of being 12 signs, we can look at them as 6 pairs of 2 signs. So for example, Aries would work in an axis with Libra. So it's like both ends of a spectrum. Like they work together, but they're kind of like the opposite and complementary at the same time. So instead of being like, oh, there are 12 signs, there's actually 6 pairs of 2 signs. If you look at an astrological chart, most likely it will consist of a circle divided into 12 pieces. So this little circle, would be technically a picture of the sky the day you were born from the place you were born at the time you were born. So what they do is like there's a system, you go online, type all this information, and you will get like this 2-dimensional drawing or graph of your astral chart. Now, this circle is divided into 12 pieces. So you're going to imagine a pizza, right? So there's 12 slices of pizza. Now, each slice or each subdivision represents an area of life. Each area of life is, to some branches of astrology, associated with a sign. For example, the first slice of the circle is associated with Aries. The second is associated with Taurus. Now, let's go back to the first one, right? Aries. Remember how I told you it's 6 pairs of 2 signs, and each sign has their counter position? Well, Aries would be the first house. Now, which is the opposite of the first house or Aries? It would be the 7th house or Libra. But eventually in the podcast, we'll get deeper into that. Now, again, when we talk about the 12 house system, again, we're saying technically we're talking about 6 pairs of houses. Again, like the 6 dimensions of life that precision nutrition talks about. By the way, they don't think that precision nutrition inspired all their knowledge in astrology. Not at all. I'm just saying this because these are 2 topics I'm very interested about, and I'm like, oh, they're actually very similar, right? So when I studied astrology, I've been studying astrology for like 4 years maybe, and the most recent certification I did was on body astrology. So body astrology, I did it with a teacher from Argentina. Her name is Belu. She's the best. Like, she's very, very smart. The purpose of body astrology is to balance your dimensions of life with, at least from the body astrology perspective, is balancing those dimensions of life or areas of life through movement, breath, and sound. These little things, from changes in your perspective or how you look at things, or maybe just breathing, being present with you, moving your body. And moving your body can mean different things for different people. Maybe it can be, going for a walk, or doing a movement that represents something to you in order to give you, I guess, your subconscious, or tell yourself like you're intentional about something you want to change. Now, for example, in astrology, that axis, the 1 and 7, or again, Aries or Libra, would be the axis of relationships. So that's like your relationships dimension from the astrological perspective. So yes, expect, if you listen to me during the podcast, I'm going to be telling a lot of references about astrology, because that's a way, for me to remember things. And again, I said it's a language. Now, in astrology, you also have all these aspects, like your relationships, your environment, your body, your emotions, your mental, your mental dimension, um, and your existential dimension to life. And yeah, it's all a full circle. Now, when we have some degree of deep health, so this is according to Precision Nutrition, or I got it from what I've learned with Precision Nutrition, we are able to grow, adapt, evolve, and potentially even excel as human beings. At the very least, we have a life forward direction that gives us a sense of vitality, and purpose in this world. By the way, English is not my first language. But how do we get there? I would say by mastering the fundamentals. And how do we master the fundamentals, you might ask? By making little but consistent changes in our behavior. Now, we can take a very simple example. When I used to coach for, health coaching, one of the first things that actually, and I got this from Precision Nutrition from my certification, is to tell people, hey, like, start by eating mindfully, start by eating slowly. Funny thing is, when I did my astrology certification, when we got to Taurus, which is the second house, we the practice, the behavior we needed to adopt was to eat mindfully. It was just that, eat mindfully, like slow. And this is, for me, at least for me, it's mind blowing and super cool. We would like, just, why would you eat slowly? Because, well, you need your body to be in like rest and digest mode. You need to be calm, and then you make space for you to feel and sense what you're eating, being tuned to your hunger cues, to your satiety, actually understanding if what you're eating, how that, and if what you're eating sits well on your stomach, sits well on you, if you feel good, when you feel full, when you feel like you are hungrier. So it's all about, it's a journey about self-discovery, and you get to that self-discovery with the simple things, with your breath, with eating, with your structure. And it's about getting to know yourself, and sometimes that's uncomfortable, especially if it's very different from what you've been doing before. But it's it's simple. Maybe it's not easy, but it's simple, and you don't have to do a bunch of things, or go do, maybe, at least for the majority of time, and unless you have like a special condition, like, it's very simple. You don't have to like spend a lot of money or do a certain treatment. It's just like, okay, let's start to understand what my behavior is. And that was the same thing we did when we were working on the Taurus energy. And it's actually very interesting, because when we did the first level of my certification in astrology, we would do things through experience. So it's like, okay, we can talk about Taurus. Yes, I can give you all the information about Taurus, but we needed to feel with our body and through our behavior what that energy represents. And so astrology represents a body, represents pleasure, represents enjoyment. And one of the first things we find pleasure in, or one of the few things we find pleasure, actually, one of the many things we find pleasure in, is through eating. Eating connects us with other people. From tradition, it connects us, when we celebrate, or when we go have a conversation with someone, we usually eat, and it's something that brings people together. But it's something that brings yourself together with yourself in the moment, in the present. So it's about, tasting the food. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And it's having a moment for yourself. It's kind of like a little meditation. So again, I believe there's power in the very simple things, and it's a matter of paying attention, finding that appreciation, acknowledging those little things, getting to know yourself. And yeah, I think that makes a huge impact on your well-being. I'm on that journey. I'm trying to pay attention to those little things. Sometimes maybe at some point in your life, you don't have access to many things or many resources. And that can be for sure an invitation to get those things and go for those things. But also it can be an invitation to take a look at your life and find a way to enjoy the things that you already have. And you might as well find things that you didn't know were there, and that will make you very happy. Well, again, this is all I have for you for now. I hope you enjoyed it. I would really appreciate your feedback. I would really appreciate if you told me if you can relate to anything of this or not. And please share. And yeah, stay tuned for our next episode. We will talk about more about astrology and about life and about daily habits and things that do well to your life. Until next time.